What's happening, y'all? It's Emily Reeves here, and you have tuned in to another episode of State of the Build here on the Peak Auto YouTube channel. I am always excited about these episodes, and this one in particular has me stoked. We're going to talk to my friend Ishan from CZeroMedia. So I randomly met Ishan on an island off the coast of Belize. We were taking a New Year's vacation, Aaron and I were, and we started chatting with this dude, and he's like, yeah, I do YouTube, and we started talking more, and I'm like, we're in the same business, man. And then we started talking about our cars, and turns out the dude has a Z car that is very similar to ours, and that is what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm so excited. Y'all know how much I love Z cars. All right, let's shoot Ishan a text. Good morning, Ishan. Thank you so much for taking the time to toss videos back and forth with me today. So I was just telling the lovely folks that are watching this episode how we met. So the small world factor of that is very high, and it's so awesome. And then we started talking about Z cars, and I just am so excited to hear the backstory of your car. When we met, we talked about power plant and, performance components of both of our builds, but I haven't heard the backstory of your car. So start from the top. When did you find this car? What condition was it in when you found it? And what was your history with Z cars? Did you have any kind of desire as a kid to have one, or what's the story there?
What's going on, Emily? Ishan here from CZeroMedia. It's great to see you, and I'm glad you covered how we met at a tiny island in Belize. It really is a small world, yet how big the car community is and how awesome us YouTubers are. I think the best part of YouTubing is really being able to meet people from all over the world and working with awesome sponsors. Here is my Z. It is 1978 280Z that I have turned into more of a 240Z from exterior wise. But a little bit of story about this car. I got it about 4 or 5 years ago. At the time, I already had a 260Z, which was 1976. Same color, orange. But when I bought the car for $6,000 or $5,000 at the time, I saw it was a steal, and it was a steal until I started looking into the car. There was rust all over the place, and it was a little bit of too much work to complete the car to a point where I wanted it to be. So I was at the time pretty determined to tear the car down, do a full sandblast to the chassis level and start welding in floor pans and whatnot, but I didn't want that commitment at the time. So I was kind of browsing around, taking my time with the build, and that's when I came across this 1978 280Z. At the time, it was still cheap market for the Z cars, and I was able to pick this up for a reasonable price. And the reason why I picked this particular car up was because the previous owner had gone through and completely restored the chassis. It was more about restoration build, exactly not how it is sitting right now, but clean car, clean canvas, and that's the reason why I picked it up. Me with Z cars, I always loved them. Growing up in Tokyo, Japan in the 80s and 90s, I did come across Z cars here and there. That's kind of like the Bosozoku era, if any of you are familiar with the Japanese gang culture of street motorcycles and street cars and how they cut springs, lower there, and put ridiculous aero on the cars. Z cars are really from that generation, like the Skylines and Corollas. So the little rebel inside of me always had a love for the Bosozoku style cars. And when I saw the chance to hop on the Z car builds and watching how awesome these cars turn out once modified, I was like, I gotta get in on one of these things.
Dude, you actually grew up in Tokyo, Japan. That is awesome. So you got to see these cars in the wild, really understand the culture. I absolutely love that. Man, your car is so gorgeous. I love that you rescued a 280 Ours is a 280 as well. Did you keep the 260, the one that was pretty rusted out, or did you sell it to someone that might have rescued it? I wonder about the history of that car, where it is now. Man, you've done a gorgeous job with this car. So when you bought it, it was in pretty good shape. Was it orange? Did it have suspension work? Did it have a power plant? What state did you buy it in, aside from it being a good solid car with little rust?
That's right, straight from the land of rising sun. It's been fun walking on this car too, in particular, because I'll find stickers and labels and different newspaper pieces even that's got Japanese on it. I can read it and kind of get an idea of how people lived back in the day. I could only imagine going to a grocery store and seeing a bunch of Z cars being driven by soccer moms to just get groceries. But another one of the reasons why I love working on Japanese classic cars is the history and the story behind it, right? The 260Z I actually sold to a subscriber of mine, and he traded his R6 for the 260Z, took it down to Texas or Florida and dropped it off at a shop, did a full restoration, sandblasting, repainting with primer and everything, went the whole 9 years, re-welded the floor pan and everything, and sold it because he lost motivation. And that's unfortunately what happens to a lot of builds, because just so much work to just get started on the build to get to that fun area. I know I'm cheating a little bit, but I know myself enough at this point in my life to know that I'm not gonna be rebuilding a car from bare metal. All right, so let me just show you the car here. When I bought the car, it, like I said, was a complete stock rebuild. And by that, I mean suspension components were as if it came off the dealership floor. I don't know why previous owner did that, because I like to make improvements as I rebuild a car instead of putting back stock components. So I still had rubber bushings and stock springs, stock struts, which were already starting to tear apart. So I ended up going with Technotoy Tuning's coilover, Technotoy Tuning's lower control arm, tension rods. Same with the back side here as well. In the back, I got Wheelwood 2-piece rotors set up. I don't know why, but I decided to go with a brake caliper, e-brake in the back, and a bigger Wheelwood piston, because the last thing I want is for this car to lose its brakes and run into something in front of me. And on the back here, got the coilovers, but with 2-piece caliper setup. So I got the Wheelwood 4-piston brake setup, as well as the e-brake that is engaged by caliper. I went above and beyond. I don't know why, but I thought it looks cool on this car. The tires are 255s in the rear, and I believe 225s up front. 8.5 width, 9.5 in the rear, with fender flares that sticks out about 2.5 inches in the back and gives the car that nice stance that I'm looking for. Another cool feature I want to mention on the rear end is that it's no longer a 280Z rear end, it is a 240Z. I did a conversion with carbon fiber trim pieces as well as carbon fiber lip. And here I have LED sequential taillights from Dapper Lightning. You can pop this out, split out the plastic pieces, and install a new PCB assembly that allows you to program your turn signals. So I think that's super cool. I also have on the front end Dapper Lightning's LED headlight with the halo rings. In the center too is the OE7 LED headlight, so I can actually see at night, because one of the biggest complaints I had for the Z when I first driving it was how dim the headlight is and the tail light is. So that has been improved and modernized.
Dude, your car sits out so beautiful. The ride height is primo. So we've got a similar suspension setup, similar size tires and stuff, but I know that our power plants are very different. Aaron and I LS swapped our car, which I have mixed feelings about. I love an LS, but putting it in the Japanese car, we're not super proud of it. We did the 180-degree headers, so it sounds really unique, and the stacked injection coming out of the hood is a cool build feature as well, but it's still not accurate. So tell us about your power plant, because it's good.
With my Z car, for the first time in my life, I didn't want to chase after that high horsepower. Like my Evo has 600-ish horsepower, and of course FD's got about 500 horsepower. But with this, I wanted to stay true to the way it was designed and the way it was meant to be for the first time in my life. So over here, I have a refreshed L28 engine in it. Had a little bit of port work in the head, a little bit of valve job, a little bit of cleaning up, should I say, to make it more reliable and pretty, a little bit of fuel work. But I will be working on the engine probably next year. I'm gonna take this apart, do a 3.0 or 3.1 liter build. If I can source a diesel crank, I'll put that in. If not, that's okay. I will figure out a different way to probably reach 200 or 230-ish horsepower. That's about my goal. I put this car on a dyno just for the fun of it, and it made 116 wheel horsepower, and I still have a blast driving it. So if I can crank out 200 wheel horsepower at the wheel, that's double the horsepower. That will be one fun car. And I'm not gonna be boosting it. I wanna keep it simple and classy. And the transmission has been swapped with a 5-speed transmission, so I can drive on the highway instead of the 4-speed that it came with. And it's been a fun little DD in the summertime. Oh, don't worry about the LS engine inside the Z. I know all about LS engines inside Japanese cars. There's a time and place for these engines, and I do get a lot of hate for it, but I don't care.
The good old L28. Wow, I think that just looking at that engine compartment gives me warm and fuzzy feelings. It just is so beautiful. But I'm also excited that you're going to be pulling it out and possibly stroking it. When you said that, like, we've got an L28D right here. So we found this engine, and we actually wanted to diesel swap our car. We wanted to put the diesel L28 in our car, and we had it in there for a little while, but it was so hard to find parts for that we just got weak and we put an LS in it. But dude, we've got the stroker crank right here. I guess we can chat about that because it's literally just sitting here in our shop. I mean, we love diesel engines, so it's kind of like makes us happy sitting there, but at the same time, it's not being used or utilized. So, that's a thing. So you overdrive swap the car too, which is great. We've got a 6-speed in Zen, so it is just so nice to have them be able to cruise on the highway like that. And dude, a little over 100 horsepower, isn't that so funny how it's still so fun to drive? It's a testament to how amazing those cars are built and how much fun they are to cruise around in, just the handling and being so nimble, and they're just awesome. I love these cars so much. Thank you so very much for taking the time to toss videos back and forth with me on your car. I am absolutely in love with her. She is such a beauty. And you know what? We're car fam, and especially Z car fam. It's really, really awesome. Everybody that watches this episode, be sure to go check out Ishin's channel if you don't already. It's awesome. A lot of really beautiful cars. I hope you have an amazing holiday time, Christmas and New Year's and all that good stuff. And thank you again for taking the time to make this episode with me. Your car is amazing.
Emily, what? You literally have a diesel crank sitting in your garage, ready to go in here. What? What is this? You've been holding out on me? That's awesome though. If I were you, I would keep the LSZ and then get another Z, put a diesel in there, and make some videos on that. That would be sweet if you can find the Z shell that is in this crazy world that we live in today. By the way, cute puppy. I would much rather have the puppy than the crank, I think. I used to have a puppy in here, now I don't. totally jealous, and totally jealous that you're in a t-shirt right now. It's about 20 degrees in my garage right now, and I can hardly talk. But thank you so much, Emily, for the opportunity to throw videos back and forth. I think it's a great concept. It's great catching up with you, and I had awesome time speaking to you about your car and my car, and I'm looking forward to the final video when it releases. And of course, thanks to Peak for helping us out, and then wishing all success for your future builds. Let's talk about that diesel crank though, huh? Thank you.
What do y'all think about a diesel Z car? I think it'd be pretty sweet, right? It's so wild that we have that engine just sitting over there, not being used for anything, but add it to the list of things we're not utilizing in our shop. You're probably the same way, aren't you? Have a bunch of junk that you don't utilize. Maybe so. I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. I look forward to reading all your comments and also suggestions for who you want to see on upcoming episodes. Also, Happy New Year! 2022 is upon us. Thank you guys so much for all the love and support. Every subscription, every comment, every thumbs up on this video, it counts, and we appreciate y'all being here. All right, we'll see you on the next episode.